One thing Stu and I can agree on is that most of our listeners will have heard of Area 51. Area 51 is at the heart of everything we know or think we know about alien visitors. It is a familiar reference point for anyone with even only the most passing interest in UFO phenomena. But what about Area 52? We've heard reference being made to it in many sci-fi shows, including Stargate and Doctor Who. But there are those who contend that Area 52 is actually a real place, more secret, or at least less famous, than Area 51. Join us on Aliens Explored as we delve into the question of where, or what, is Area 52.
Aliens Explored is a weekly podcast exploring famous and obscure cases of UFO sightings, alien abductions and other strange events from both a believing and a skeptical perspective whilst keeping an open mind. I'm Stu Jackson, a professional actor and amateur ufologist with a particular interest in the crop circle phenomenon. I'll be debating that otherworldly visitations are real. The truth is out there.
And I'm Neil Kelly. I'm a professional actor as well and used to work for the military as an intelligence analyst. I'll be arguing from a more doubtful point of view. I mean, it's all a bit far-fetched, isn't it?
Welcome everyone to another episode of Aliens Explored, a weekly podcast where we delve into UFOs, alien sightings, abductions and other otherworldly events. I am one of your hosts, Stu Jackson.
And I'm your other host, Neil Kelly.
And today on the show, we are discussing, well, I think it's fair to say, isn't it, Neil, that everyone's heard of Area 51?
I think anyone who has even had even the most passing interest in UFOs and alien visitations will have heard of Area 51. Anyone who's watched the X-Files, anyone who's had anything to do with it, they will know about Area 51.
Certainly the sort of people who are likely to be listening to a UFO podcast are likely to have heard of Area 51.
But quite likely to have heard of Area 51.
Do you know what? We're not talking about Area 51 today. We are actually talking about Area 52.
Right, so
Dugway Proving Ground. Oh, you're launching straight in there.
Yeah,
I like this.
Yeah, Area 51. We know where Area 51 is. We know where it is. Is it marked on a map? I mean, we at least know where it's probably maybe not on an official map.
Absolutely, yes.
I mean, if you bought an Ordnance Survey map of Nevada, or is it Nevada? Or
yeah, I believe it's Nevada.
Yeah. Would it actually be marked out Area 51, forbidden area?
I think they just refer to it as like military base, or I don't know for certain. Perhaps some of our listeners can message us and let us know, how is it marked on maps in America? We're not in America,
because they can be quite cagey. I mean, I remember during the anti-nuclear, the Greenham Common protests of the 1980s. If you travelled up the motorway, you'd see these little roads leading off it, and there'd just be a sign saying service road, authorised vehicles only. And anti-nuclear activists went and defaced those signs and said, "This is a lie. This is the road that leads to nuclear base, whatever." That's.
Well, you have, especially around Roswell and those sorts of areas, you have a lot of things associated with it. So I think Area 51, well, funnily enough, I mean, you've kind of hit onto an interesting aspect with Area 52 here. So some people have speculated that because Area 51 is so famous, that actually it suits the powers that be to have this. Oh yes, Area 51, everyone gets excited. Oh, that's where they keep the aliens and all the rest of it. because some people theorise that the much more high security and secretive Area 52, which is a few hundred miles northeast from Area 51, out in Utah, is where all the, shall we say, exotic materials from Roswell and possibly other UFO sites have been taken, and that's really where they're being worked on.
Sorry, I made a mistake earlier when I said Nevada. Of course, Roswell is in New Mexico.
Roswell is, but Roswell is not Area 51.
Right.
They're not too
the two
far,
do get conflated, don't they? Roswell and Area 51.
Well, they get associated because obviously it was reported in the newspaper straight away from a press statement from the military, and I think it's really important that we don't forget that aspect, that a flying saucer had crashed in Roswell and that it was then taken to Area 51.
Right, which is this closed off area for military.
Which is a top secret military base. I mean, not that top secret, obviously, we know about it, but, secret enough.
Secret enough that you can't go. Now, I mean, if we're talking about Area 51 and Area 52, I mean, doesn't it stand to reason that somewhere there's an Area 50 and an Area 49 and an Area 48? And, where do they get these numeric designations from?
My understanding, and I'm not an expert in this at all, but I believe it was to do with the numbering system that was utilised back in the 1940s. Nowadays, bases get like S1, S2, S3. It's a little bit different. So there might not be an Area 49 or what have you.
Right.
Yeah, it's not as simple or straightforward quite as that. But Area 52 is known by another name. It's known as the Dugway Proving Grounds. It's an area, so Area 51 is pretty big.
The Dugway Proving Ground is a US Army facility near Salt Lake City in Utah.
It is indeed, and this is Area 52.
So what they said, according to Wikipedia, it says Area 52 may refer to the Dugway Proving Ground. It may also refer to the Tonopah Test Range, a military installation near Tonopah, Nevada, because of course in that area, I mean, that's a vast area of desert. That's where I don't know about nuclear weapons, but atomic weapons were tested.
Oh,
initially,
absolutely.
And people would go to Las Vegas. One of the attractions of Las Vegas was to be able to go up on a roof with your cocktail and watch an atom bomb go off in the distance.
Yeah.
How hazardous an activity that was, I don't know. And of course, Las Vegas has all sorts of. I mean, it was basically built by the mafia, wasn't it? As a gambling paradise out in the desert, a money making machine for them. But it's also where I understand that's where drone pilots are based. All the American drones that are carrying out targeted assassinations all over the world, their pilots are in Las Vegas, presumably blowing their paychecks between shifts on the roulette wheel and the crap games. Yeah.
Now that means something else to us over here in the UK. Crap means bad. It's
rubbish. Or
if you say something is shit, we would say it's crap. I
think Americans have that as well. Americans say, "Oh crap," and then when they say, "Oh crap," it's a nicer way of saying it's a bit nicer than saying, "Oh shit."
But
they're not referring to throwing some dice down a table while
playing
crap. Overpriced call girl holds your drink for you.
As long as it's just your drink, but let's not go there. It's not that type of podcast.
Okay. So Area 52. It's appeared in many fictional places and areas in movies and television programs. It's the code name for Stargate Command in the Stargate universe. It's a secret government facility underneath Area 51 in the movie Zoom. I haven't seen Zoom, have you?
Yes, I have, yeah.
Okay.
It's Tim Allen.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a cheesy kids superhero movie, but let's put the fictional side to one. So the only reason it's used fictionally is because of Area 51, and it's oh hey, let's make it sound like Area 51. Let's call it Area 52, and so it gets utilised a lot.
Yeah, because when he first said let's talk about Area 52, I thought, oh yeah, Roswell, all that, and I thought, oh no, wait a minute, that's
Area 51.
I had to pause for thought and think, oh no, wait a minute, that's Area 51, isn't it? I was getting confused.
Absolutely. So this one, so let's refer to it then in that case as Dugway Proving Grounds from here on, for ease of for avoidance of confusion.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about a place that is 3.5 times the size of Area 51. It is massive. It is, as you very rightly say, in the middle of nowhere. They call it a proving grounds. There are signs up everywhere talking about, do not come in because, there's explosions, there's, all this kind of thing.
Well,
yet there is no evidence.
According to Wikipedia, Dugway Proving Ground is a US Army facility established in 1942 to test biological and chemical weapons. So you really don't want to go there.
Well,
you could
they
die
really
a horrible
want
death.
to put you off going there, don't they? But here's the thing. So you've got all these signs up saying, do not come in, live. I mean, it's live explosions, it's live mines, it's bombs being dropped here, whatever the actual signage says. But they're making this absolutely clear to you. Yet there is no evidence. When you look, you can use the most powerful, what they call binoculars. The word escaped me for a moment. Use the most powerful binoculars going. You will not see any evidence of explosions having taken place.
Well, no, if they're biological and chemical weapons, I mean, they're not going to leave craters, are they? They blow away.
What I'm saying is the signs don't say beware there's biological or that it's a biohazard. They say do not come in because we are exploding things here. And there is no evidence of explosion. So they're lying.
Well, no, not if they're aerial bursts or if it's biological or chemical weapons. During World War II, Britain tested a biological weapon on a Scottish island. They tested the weaponised anthrax, and I think that island is still not safe to go to now.
Okay.
So 70 or 80 years later, that you really don't want to. I mean, you can't see anything there, but you'll die a horrible death if you.
And I bet they say, don't go there, it's a biohazard. I bet they don't say, don't go there because you might get blown up. Because you wouldn't get blown up. They're saying, do not come in here because you might get blown up. They're not saying, do not come in, it's a biohazard. That's what I mean, they're lying. They're lying about the reason for not coming in. Even if what you're saying is absolutely true, that it is a biohazard risk, they're not saying it's a biohazard risk, and surely they should be if it is.
Well, they can be a bit cagey about that kind of thing. I mean, I remember when I was in the military, they were always calling for volunteers to go to Porton Down, the chemical weapons establishment, which is down near Salisbury, to test. I remember one of them was testing this new facelet, and we were told, no, you won't actually be gassed. You will just be sort of running around in it. Because, I mean, if you're wearing a normal respirator, apparently that puts an extra 40% strain on your heart. That soldiers have died because they've been made to do assault courses and things in full chemical warfare gear, and had heart attacks and quite young, healthy men drop down dead. Wow. So there's that, but we never really believed it. They always said we're researching chemical and biological weapons to build up defences to them, not so that we can develop our own capability. But no one ever really believed them. And there was that case a couple of years ago of the Skripals, the Soviet or the Russian defector and his daughter, who were poisoned with a nerve agent, a weapon of mass destruction. The first time it's been used on British soil, and became very ill. I think they survived, didn't they? But apparently the chemical agent was in a perfume bottle, and the assassins discarded it after using it, and it was found by someone. A woman found it and sprayed herself with it, and she died of it.
I feel we've gotten a little bit off topic.
We have gone a little bit. Okay, we're getting into chemical weapons.
So either way, I mean, all right, I get what you're saying, that, you know, these things do happen, and of course they happen, and I understand that biohazards happen, but they're not saying it's bio. They're saying do not come in because you will get blown up. Well, which is clearly a lie.
On Wikipedia, it says Dugway's mission is to test United States and Allied biological and chemical weapon defence systems in a secure and isolated environment.
Yeah. Okay, Wikipedia gets a lot of things wrong.
So yeah, I mean, but what I know from my own experience in the military is you don't need a chemical or a biological weapon to test a defence system against it. You can use other things. You don't need a nerve agent or you don't need mustard gas to know whether your respirator is secure or not. You can use other things.
Okay,
to check whether the seal works. You know, that sort of thing.
How many hectares do you need to do that?
Well, I mean, if they're doing it at Porton Down, they're doing it in a backyard, basically. I can imagine if in America they're probably doing more extensive tests. They're probably testing, deploying chemical weapons from an aircraft. So the plane flies over and just sprays an agent over an area. Yeah, you need a slightly bigger area for that. And
this is hundreds of kilometres.
Well, America does benefit from having these wide open spaces, doesn't it? That we just don't have in the UK.
It does, and there is something that kind of supports what you're saying a little bit, in that across the area you don't have much above ground. You've got some very large hangar-type buildings, sort of a road network. We only found this out relatively recently. I'll come on to that in just a moment, though. And it has been speculated that most of it happens underground. Now, that's been said by people who claim to have had reason to visit. One of them, do you remember way back in episode 3, we discussed Bob Lazar?
Who claims to have worked on flying saucers.
And do you remember where he claimed to have worked on them?
Now, I think I've got a note somewhere that...
I'll give you a clue. We're talking about it in this episode.
Was it at Dugway?
It is Dugway Proving Ground, Area 52.
Bob Lazar, he worked on flying saucers at a place called S4 or Site 4.
Yes, S4 within Dugway.
It says that someone confirmed to the I-team on the wire that there is more than one S4 on the test range, and one of them is at TTR. TTR being
Tampa something. But yeah. Now,
military watchdogs say they don't believe there's a big underground operation. I mean, one guy claimed that he was driving a cement truck down there. They said there's an underground facility capable of housing 25,000 people or troops. He says he heard part of this from a cement truck driver who worked out there, who said it would take 4 hours to get to the bottom, dump the cement, and then wind his way back up. So, although that cement truck driver later disappeared, but
there you go. So there's that, which, if it was chemical testing, you could understand them doing it underground. You want to be safe, you want to protect people and do it as far away from people as possible. I understand. So why would they then say, oh no, there's nothing underground? They're contradicting themselves.
Maybe because there isn't. I mean, there's someone called John Lear who alleges that a clean nuclear device, presumably one that creates a lot of heat and blast but doesn't leave residual radiation, was used to create a giant chamber under the Poet Mesa in Area 52. produced this capability. Now, my understanding
he's been discredited though, mostly.
Yeah, because my understanding of underground nuclear blasts is that they don't stay underground. They actually blast up through the surface, and all the material that they blow into the air becomes radioactive isotopes. It's an underground bomb is a very, very dirty bomb.
Yes. Now I'm going to put 3 different things to you about Area 50, about Dugway Proving Ground. 3 different aspects that you may not be aware of, to see if this changes your opinion. First of all, I'm going to give you 4 things. 4 things, in fact. 2 of them are connected.
Right.
So first of all, from the start of Google Earth coming out, right the way up until 2016, Area 52 was on blackout from Google Earth. You could not view it. It was just completely blacked out. Why would they do that?
I imagine the US military do have some kind of veto over that kind of thing. So we just don't want these areas that we use to appear on your maps. We don't want people to just be able to log into Google Earth and look at us.
But they did fine for other sites. I mean, Area 51 you can.
I don't know, but I would imagine the military have a lot of blacking. I know even in the UK there are military sites where it just says military area and there's no
there's
no detail
say that.
But on an ordnance survey map, those areas are just fairly blank.
Okay, now 2016 it then gets added, and we're allowed to see, and you do see hangars. One aircraft in particular, there's a photo of this online, if you find it. There is an aircraft, it's either coming in or coming out or halfway in and out of a hangar, and the part of that aircraft that you would be able to see has been blurred.
So you can't actually see what kind of aircraft it is?
No, but looking at where it's blurred... we've talked previously about triangular shaped UFOs.
Yes.
This looks pretty triangular shaped to me.
Like a delta winged aircraft.
No, more like an equilateral triangle.
Okay. But doesn't a Vulcan bomber look pretty much like that from?
Like an equilateral, does it?
I'm not sure of the actual angles actually, but it's probably not far off.
So an equilateral triangle is when each side is equal.
Yeah, and the 3 angles are equal. Yes.
The angles are equal, but the length of each side is equal. So it's
they have to be, don't they? Otherwise,
yeah.
If you want the angles to be equal,
of course.
Basic trigonometry. Yeah. Sorry.
And I can understand them blurring vehicles, but there are several other vehicles around in that image that have not been blurred. Just this one. Now that says to me they're hiding something.
But then it could just be a prototype aircraft, couldn't it?
Right. I'm going to ramp it up again now.
Right.
You ready for this? So, it's a military base. We know it's a military base. We know it's a top secret military base. So why are there parts of it that even the military are not allowed to go?
Well, that doesn't make any sense. Is that
unless there's something really top secret going on?
Someone must be authorised to go there.
Yes, absolutely. Not the military though.
But I've worked on bases where they have been involved in secret stuff, and not everyone who has access to the base has access to these inner compounds. This is we're talking about a small British base. On a large American base or a vast area like Area 51 or 52. You can imagine, there are plenty of soldiers who work there or civilians who American bases are of a different kind of on a different scale. Imagine a British base. Basically, you go in the camp, you go through. There's the guard room and the gate, and you go through, and there's the parade square, and there's a few barrack blocks around the parade square, and a canteen, and maybe at the back a rifle range and an assault course and whatever. And it will be home to about, I don't know, if it's a regimental size, 600 troops. That will be the peacetime strength of an infantry regiment, which would expand to 1,000 in wartime. And somewhere nearby, you would have what would look like a council estate, basically, which is the army married quarters, where the married soldiers live. But that estate will probably service a few bases. So you're talking somewhere like Purbright, fairly small. If you go somewhere like Fort Lewis in Seattle, where I went on a detachment, I remember we drove in the base, and I thought, and we just kept driving, and then we went past an airfield, well, a major, like an airport, and through traffic lights, and we kept going. I mean, I remember one time my mate and I decided to walk back from the NCO's club back to our barracks, and it took us over an hour. And this Fort Lewis has something like 100,000 troops based there, and with the civilians who service it as well, it's a population of about 250,000. At the time, we were told there are 2 murders every week on average on this base, and 2 rapes, unfortunately. It's on an American base is on a completely different scale to a little British army barracks.
Yeah, we have towns that aren't that big.
Yeah. It is somewhere like Fort Lewis. I mean, America, places like Fort Worth in Texas, that's a major town with over 1 million people in it. But it started out as a fort. It would have just been a secure area where settlers could have settled down.
Okay.
So in America, you are talking about these vast base areas, and there'll be some areas where only specific authorised personnel are allowed in.
That's fair enough, but it has been alleged that part of this, and the military not having access to parts of it, the claim is that basically at Area 52 they have no oversight.
The military don't have oversight.
Well, the people running it, which is alleged not to be the military.
Although the military will probably be involved in a protective capacity.
And
if you tell a soldier you've got to guard this facility but you're not allowed in and no one's allowed in, it would take someone very strong-willed or very poorly militarily disciplined to break that rule.
Oh, absolutely.
Soldiers will stick to it. Yeah, absolutely.
Although there is a story about the UFO investigator who was approached by someone claiming to work at Area 52 and met them in a cafe, and they sat there and they pull out this photograph of themselves stood they were like with a colleague, like another soldier, stood next to a Humvee, and then in the background, very clearly, bold as brass, you've got a UFO floating. Okay. Now, apparently, this UFO investigator, when he reached out to take the photo, they wouldn't even let him hold the photo because they're absolutely banned from taking any photographs whatsoever. So we don't have evidence of that. So it is hearsay, unfortunately, but
hearsay.
That would be a stonking one. Okay, I'm going to give you my last bit of querying on this then. The Genesis space probe. Now, this was a space probe sent out into space to collect interstellar matter. It comes back to Earth. It enters Earth's orbit. Something goes wrong, and it ends up just completely out of control. It's heading towards a city. I forget which one. and we're talking massive devastation if it hits. It is moved off its trajectory. This is public knowledge. It is moved off its trajectory. Now, I didn't know that we even had the technology to alter the flight paths of things like that.
My understanding of space probes was they're not supposed to come back. We send them out, they gather information, and then as soon as
this wasn't gathering information.
They just keep going.
This was gathering physical material. So, yes, it needs to come back to deliver the material.
And where did it go? Do you know?
Yes, it was deliberately veered off course.
No, I mean, where did it go in space?
I'm not 100% certain of that, but it's there on Google.
I mean, have we had craft that have, for instance, orbited Mars and come back?
I honestly don't know. But this specific one, that's not the interesting thing about this. So this is a spacecraft that is being brought back to Earth. It's lost control. It's heading towards the city. It is veered off its course, off its crash course. It's wildly out of control. There's video footage of it tumbling through the air. It is redirected somehow. Still don't know how, technology-wise. And it crashes, guess where?
Area 52.
Area 52. Isn't that convenient?
Well, certainly where there's an orbiting craft and they know that it's going to come down and they want to make sure that it doesn't come down on a city like Skylab, that they can cause it to fall out of the sky at a certain point, can't they? They can roughly guess, okay. And I remember in the early 80s, possibly it was 1980, when was it? I think it was Skylab coming down. They said this thing is about the size of a bus dropping out of the sky, and it was going to come down somewhere in Lapland. And so the Swedish or Finnish government spent an awful lot of money going out to this fairly sparsely populated area, and with helicopters and evacuating people before this thing came down. Although someone worked out later that your chances of being killed in a helicopter crash whilst being evacuated were actually far greater than being hit by this thing when it came down in this remote region.
Yeah, but it's not just being hit by the thing; it's the collateral damage that it does around when you get a massive impact like that. But that wasn't the case with this. It was already coming down, and it was coming down onto a city.
I didn't know. So they could
it wasn't
that
they'd. Yeah. I don't know how they did it.
I thought they could identify basically work out where it's going to enter the Earth's orbit, enter the atmosphere, and then that's it. It's just a free falling object then.
Yeah. Now there is a theory that perhaps one of the things that has been developed at Area 52 is an anti-spacecraft device, and they were testing it.
Well, are we straying into Ronald Reagan's Strategic Defence Initiative here?
Well, no, that was just lasers blowing up missiles.
Well, I mean, the technology we've seen from that is basically satellites being used as weapons, either blasting other satellites or attacking targets on Earth with rail guns and things. But also there was the anti-missile defence, wasn't there? The Patriot missile system, which not half as good as it was made out to be. But that was a spin-off of that because basically an interballistic missile coming in is a spacecraft, isn't it? It goes into orbit and it re-enters over the target. So they can put an ICBM on a certain spot.
Shooting something down is one thing. Using a tractor beam like off Star Trek is a bit different, though.
If they used a tractor beam, but my understanding is that that with an intercontinental ballistic missile with multiple warheads, a MIRV or a MARV, once those warheads enter the atmosphere, they can then be guided to their targets.
Well, yeah, no, I'm talking about this satellite that was heading in one direction.
Oh yeah.
How did they get it to veer course? Unless it was some form of tractor beam.
If it was like a warhead from a missile, presumably they could have that system in a satellite. And they say, okay, well, once this thing's come through the Earth's orbit, we can actually guide it.
I'm thinking it's more of an for want of a better term, an anti-flying saucer device that they were testing.
Well, yeah, but it would also work against something of terrestrial origin, like a missile being fired from China. That
theoretically,
you would need the same kind of defence system. You need to be able to take out something that's coming in from orbit.
Well, yeah, but if you're bringing that object to you to crash, rather than destroying it, so if it's a missile, you're going to want to destroy it. So if it's an alien spacecraft, you're going to want to bring it in to crash as close to you as possible, as close to where you are going to want to dissect it.
Yeah, so there's two separate things here. It's whether they're talking about a defence system for shooting down things that are coming in from orbit, or whether we're talking about controlling the trajectory of our own vehicles that are returning from orbit. The
Genesis space probe wasn't shot down, so...
No, but it was our own spacecraft that was returning, so they needed the technology to be able to guide it.
But what was that technology and what's its real purpose?
Well, so that's... The space shuttle, for instance, that's guided. Once it's come through orbit, it's basically a glider, isn't it? It's coming in, but it's got a pilot sat in the cockpit. Well, it's not too far-fetched to imagine that could be a smaller vehicle could be remotely controlled.
I'd strongly suggest finding the footage of the Genesis space probe coming in, because it is very clearly totally and utterly out of control. It is just tumbling massively through the air as it falls. Wow. There is absolutely no control within the vehicle, within the probe
apparent
itself.
Control, but somehow you say they guided it to not crash on a city.
Yeah, it was falling like a very tumbly rock.
And presumably, if something was coming out of orbit heading towards a city with massive destructive capability, it's only if it's one of ours and we've built in that steerage capability that we can do that. We couldn't, if a Chinese nuclear warhead was coming towards an American city, they couldn't steer that away to the ocean or the desert.
If something is tumbling, though, steering is just not an option.
No.
That's what I'm saying. I'd strongly recommend looking at that footage.
Okay. I just wanted to say something about giant underground chambers, because what is known to exist in the United States are these chambers, which are kind of survival chambers, where people can go, in the event of a super volcano going off or nuclear war or something like that. People can go and live in these underground communities for a year or 2 years or forever long until it's safe to go out again. And I rather like this story because it costs a huge amount of money to reserve your place down there for you and your family. Basically, going to go live down there in a sort of barrack-like area with bunk beds and eating dried food, eating emergency rations. It's hugely expensive to reserve a place down there. So it's only the very wealthy who are going to survive these holocausts. And I can imagine a post-apocalypse survival story where these people come out from their underground shelters, but their post-apocalyptic survival skills include owning land, manipulating the stock market, collecting rents, living off your inheritance.
Douglas Adams explored something similar in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, although it was more about middlemen.
But
the hairdressers and the telephone sanitation.
But if we were faced with a Holocaust, and it was decided only a limited number of people are going to survive, it's going to be the politicians. I'm sure nobody would, even though say you've got to go underground for 10 years, nobody would suggest that you leave the Queen out. even though, what, is she going to live another, how old is she now, 94, 96? Is she going to live another 10 years? Probably not, but there's no way they're going to leave her on the surface. They would have a massive royal chamber down there, the people servicing that. They'd have politicians, they'd have the military. It was... And rich people. Basically, it's going to be rich people who will survive anything that happens.
So we don't know what a post-apocalyptic world would look like, but we do know that they'll be able to speak Latin. So,
well, they will have a smattering of schoolboy Latin, which they can use for irrelevant non-secateurs when they don't know what else to say. So if our Prime Minister's anything to go by.
We've run a bit over, so let's do our summary then. So Area 52, Dugway Proving Grounds. Come on then, Neil. Have we convinced you that it's anything strange or weird or otherworldly going on?
I'm sure that the military has all sorts of proving grounds out in the vast wastes of Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, many of which are not open to the public. And I think all sorts of there's all sorts of speculation as to what they might well be doing there. It could be something a lot more terrifying than handling extraterrestrials. It could be dealing with some terrible weapon system that we can barely imagine. There could be concentration camps there. There could be something absolutely dreadful going on, for all we know. So.
Well, for me, I mean, because of that, because yes, there are all these bases all across America. Many of them are highly top secret, and all sorts of strange things going on at them. But none of them have all the stories coming out that Area 52 has built up over the years. None of them seem to have the flurry of UFO activity around them, or so much strangeness and strange stories coming out that we've barely scratched the surface of here. So that suggests to me, I suppose I'm kind of a no smoke without fire person on this occasion. I'm not normally like that, but yeah, on this occasion, no smoke without fire. But what do you think, listeners? Is it all mundane? Is it all just normal military, nothing to see here stuff going on? Or are they dissecting grey aliens? Or are they actually working with grey aliens beneath the very ground in Dugway? Do message us and let us know what you think. Join us next time when we'll be discussing a famous case from here in the UK. The famous Rendlesham Forest incident. Is that one? Until then, keep watching those proving grounds and the skies. Take care. See you next time.
Catch you next time. Bye.
Aliens Explored is a Figo Films production in association with Juicy Falls. Music by Darren Mafucci and editing by Stu Jackson. Find us on Twitter and Facebook by searching Aliens Explored or visit aliensexplored.com.